Yes. Good evening and a warm welcome to one and all present in the webinar. IEEE Bangalore section, IEEE Site Bangalore section, and IEEE Women in Engineering Affinity Group Bangalore would like to invite you all for the talk Driving Success Through Data, Unleashing Its Potential by Ms. Bhuvaneshwari Guddad, who is a Master Technologist, WW Data, Analytics and AI focusing on architecturing on end-to-end solutions at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, USA. She caters to HPE clients across various industries, including healthcare, finance, retail, and manufacturing. Her skills encompass modern data platforms, data governance, digital twins, data mesh, and AI, allowing her to deliver tailored solutions. She has a successful track record in implementing complex data driven solutions, significantly improving business processes. She has led various R&D innovation initiatives and inclusion and diversity team at HPE, fostering innovation and inclusivity. She heads the Special Interest Group, SIG, for cloud computing, cloud security, and AI, promoting competency enhancement and innovation. She is actively involved in TechFluence, a program that develops technical and leadership abilities, focusing on emerging technologies and inclusivity. She has mentored numerous technical experts, supporting their personal and professional growth. She has contributed to programs like Catch Them Young and efforts to mitigate unconscious biases in talent acquisition at HPE. Our today's speaker will be sharing insights about an industry point of view about the following topics: importance of data, an untapped potential of data within organizations, benefits of data, role in solving trending use cases and aiding in informed decision making and sustainable outcomes. Transforming data insights into actionable strategies for a sustainable dynamic business landscape. Problem statements that matter to the industry and need of the hour to be solved by technologists, researchers, academicians, and students. Before we hand over the session to our today's speaker, we would like the audience to share their questions in the chat. Post the talk by the speaker, we will open up the session for Q&A. Now, we welcome Ms. Bhuvaneshwari Guddad to walk us through the webinar. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are connecting from. It's a privilege for me to share my experience of my industry, whatever I'm working in the domain. That's the data and analytics and AI domain, which is a trending domain, right? With this, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. If somebody can confirm, that would really help. Just give me a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Varna, we can see it.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Before I delve into the topic itself, right, I would like to take a minute or two to thank our teachers. I know that a lot of professors are in this forum today. Today, whatever I am, right, it goes back to the knowledge that has been imparted by my teachers, by my indirect teachers, or by my mentors and indirect mentors, be it a senior mentors or a junior mentors. It doesn't make, difference when somebody is imparting knowledge in you, right? The only profession which is not business driven, which is not a numbers driven, is only the profession which comes as a, the profession of teaching, right? Where they are not measuring anything. They are not measured on how much you have done or what you have done, or like, this is the numbers, this is the target. No, they don't do it that way, right? They just impart knowledge. They put a seed which grows and becomes a plant one day, right? Which could be a shade to many people, and it again that will be spread across, right? Anything can be stolen, and anything can be snatched from anybody. But the only thing which cannot be stolen is knowledge, and that is the one thing which our teachers are giving. So I'm very thankful for that profession, and once again, thank you for being with us and helping us throughout our journey, throughout our life. Let's get started. Today's topic is all about data, right? Okay, let's understand what is the importance of the data itself in the first way, right? When I would like to start just with one example. When Supriya reached out to me and she asked, or she mentioned that there is a session, would you be interested? I said, well, I'm interested. The next question to her from my side was like, who is the audience, right? And then the followed up with that, there were several conversations which happened throughout this journey. And then when I spoke to her last and I asked her, like, what is the demographic? How are we looking with the audience, right? Uh, in terms of what are the numbers, or in terms of what is the profession, or where are they and what is the numbers, right? She gave me some rough numbers and rough estimates, right? With that would help me to set the pitch or set the stage and talk through in a similar way, or whatever it makes sense, right? Assume if I didn't have this data, I would come here, just blabber and go. At the end of the day, what would be you guys would earn, and at the end of the day, what satisfaction I would get, right? Nothing. So this shows why the data is important. Forget about this. Even if you want to claim something today with somebody, right? Even if you want to say or applying for a job, they would ask what you would have done, right? At the end of the day, you are tested on your results, or you are tested with some test papers, but you get some number that are metrics, right? So that's the data, right? It's all about data. It's all about security. Gone are the days where we used to have, food, air, water are essential, or oxygen is essential to lead a human life. But now with this technology world, I think I would like to add data and security as well, right? Data is a building base for many of the trending use cases. With that, even the security, right? Another important aspect. These two would drive a lot of factors in the industry, and it would drive a lot of organization to successful, right? With this, right, we understood the importance of data. And also it's like data can help you to kind of make, either it can help you to make a decision, or it can also break the decision. It has that power, right? If you see this, the slide itself, right, it shows how much of the data is important and why the data is important. We all do agree, right? And the question goes back saying that, do we have ample amount of data? Today we have ample amount of data. Let's well deeper into this and start understanding why data is important, including the use cases and how it is getting trending into the market, right? If you see this slide, right, we understood the data is important, but I should have some evidence, as I already mentioned in the beginning itself. I should have some evidence to say whatever I'm trying to convey, right? The research or the survey which are conducted, it shows that 83% of the CEOs wants their organization to be data driven, which is a powerful, right? Without data, will they be able to build their strategies? Without data, will I be able to make any decisions? The answer is absolutely no, right? I need evidence. I need numbers. I need to understand what am I doing, because we are into the business. We can't lose the business without having the evidences, or without having the evidences, I can't make any decisions, right? And then it is also predicted that the data infrastructure itself, right, it is going to reach 200 billion by the end of this year, which is a huge number again, right? And earlier, we used to, in the companies, in the organization, we never used to have a role called as CDOs, or it was not so trending, or it was not known role in the organization. It used to be a different way. It used to be handled by different ways, right? But today it has gone sixfold, right? And also, the Fortune 1000 companies who were participated in the survey, they themselves agreed that we need CDOs, right? Today, whenever the CEO is making any strategy change or making any business decision, they go back to CDOs to ask what is the data, or what are my data points behind this to make my decision, or which will set some clear understanding, right? And then the digital transformation, it is expected to reach 6.8 trillion by 2023, which is again a huge number, right? And if you say what are the impacts of data-driven decision itself, right? 23x times the organizations can acquire new customers if they are using the right data at the right time in a right way, right? 23x, which is a good number, right? And then it is just not acquiring the new customers. Today I have to retain my existing customers as well, because today customers are so much exposed to the technology. They know so many things, but it is becoming difficult for organizations. I talk to many customers. Their first challenge would be, how do I retain my customer back to myself? Because everybody are getting to know, right? Even you just go to Amazon, you will check the price, you will switch on to another Mintra, right? And you will check the price there as well, and you compare, right? And how do you retain my existing customers, right? If it is data driven, if you have ample data, and if you use the right tool set, so your data, or you can retain the customers by 6x. That is also proven by the survey, right? And how much of the likely organization to be profitable, right? It is 19x4. So when you are having a 23x of new customer acquisition, 6x customers are going to retain, then obviously 19x is not a big number to understand that the organization is going to be in the profitable, right? This is all about what are the surveys and the research says in the market today, right? Just give me a second. Why is it not moving? Okay. Whether it's like, what are the technologies which are dependent on data today, right? What are the trending technology? We all know all these technologies, right? Very well. I mean, everybody, this is a big hype. Everybody understands this technology very well, right? If you see, it starts from analytics until it goes to blockchain, right? So if I put it in a normal or a nomenclature, right? Analytics is all about your reporting, your dashboard, your BI, right? Will my dashboards be accurate if I don't have a right data there, right? I can show something. I might end up making bad decisions, right? I might say that this business is going on profitability, right? But what is the evidence, right? Is that accurate, right? So double checking. So that again is dependent on data. Then comes your AI, ML, and NLP and LLMs, right? Whatever you put it there, video analytics, facial recognition, whatever the AI, ML trend you put it there, it is all dependent on right data, right? Imagine you are building a model, putting it in an autonomous car and leaving it on the road, right? And if you don't have the right model built with the right data, right, what would happen? It is making a real-time decision, right? You are giving a control to a human being. You are taking a control from a human being and giving it to the machine, right? So you need to be little cognizant, right? Am I using the right data to build my model? That shows the power. Edge computing, which is again a real-time decision making, which happens continuously at the edges or the devices, wherever it is, wherever the data is getting generated, you are consuming the data and you are making a decision. Is it making sense? Am I using the right data? Am I making do I have right things which I have put in my edge device and it is making the right things for me, right? Then metaverse, we human beings are crazy today, right? We are not happy with the word. So what we have natural words. So we are creating a virtual word, right? In that virtual world, it is a different aspects altogether because you're using a device and you're operating in a virtual way to make the things work, right? If one of the thing which has been like, it is all tile structured, creating the virtual world is using all the tiles and everything, right? If one tile goes here and there and whatever the data you have put behind, if it is not operating properly, then you are gone there, right? Sustainability. Everybody are speaking about the sustainability, but my point is like, do we have a right data to say which sustainability we are talking about? Where is that evidences, right? Like, okay, let's assume one example here, right? Sustainability varies from geography to geography, and it varies from varies in a lot of factors, like environmental factors itself, right? The decisions which are making or the framework which we are building at one layer or one geography might not apply the same in another region. For example, imagine I was with one of the customer in Caribbean months ago, right? There it's an island. They don't have access to anything, right? And their data centers are not huge like what is there in United States or maybe in India as well, right? Does that, I mean, can I build a framework which is equivalent to both? Do we have numbers? Do we know what has to be done? No, right? That's all about sustainability. Sustainability requires need to be backed up by the data, right? Blockchain is awesome for security and immutable, right? But once the data is written, it cannot be erased. You can't overwrite it, right? So data again is backed up there as well. This technology landscape, all the end use cases shows us that how much of the uh, data is important for all these cases, right? Now let's little deeper. So we understood the numbers, we understood what our technologies are dependent on data. Now let's see how this whole data is framed, or how these data platforms are all framed, and how these are built across to make the data available to the end users, right? So if I see, I would divide it into two separate stuff, right? One is analytical systems and another one is operational systems. Analytical systems are your reporting dashboard, more towards patch analytics, right? Where you have data at rest, you are taking that data, you are doing some massaging or enriching, some processing, some magic, and you are giving the reporting systems, right? And that cut across your modern business intelligence applications, your BI applications, and then your multimodal data processing. Multimodal data processing, nothing but today we are not just consuming or using the structured data. We have some structured and unstructured data. You will be surprised to know that the quantity of the data getting generated is structured or unstructured. Unstructured data is more compared to structured data. We are generating more unstructured data because everywhere, right? Even your handheld devices, you are playing with the photos, you are playing with the videos, you are playing with the all the audio video things rather than with the text, right? So texts are very less. Even in the text, you have images, emojis, right? These emojis plays a vital role as well. That is another story, right? So that is semi-structured data. So these two cut across to the analytical systems. The operational systems are more towards your day-to-day operations, right? So for example, your AI/ML, you have built the model, you have the model, you have put it onto the some edge device, and it is making some decisions or some inference for you, right? That is day-to-day operations because it happens on a regular basis. Then again, multimodal data processing, because for any inference to happen, you need that data to be processed, and then you will hand it over that data to your model to kind of make an inference, right? With this, we understood the systems as well, right? Next portion is to more to understand, what is, now you have data, and now what is the data platforms, right? You need data platforms, data pipelines, tools, technology, everything to make data available for consumer, to run the use cases, to make the things smoother, to run the business, right? If you see on the center, right, that is the different layers which are required for any data platform to be built, right? So let's start from the bottom itself, right? At the bottom, you have data creation. That's where your data is getting generated. Be it any source, right? It could be edge device, it could be anywhere. The data source can be even, need not to be real time always. It could be a batch edge device as well, because we have a lot of data which has been generated previously or in tradition, and then that is stored in your data warehouse or be it anything, right? So that's where the data is created. That is a source for me, right? And next layer is infrastructure. At the end of the day, you're bringing in something. Where do I store it, right? So even if you get something to home, you will start thinking that is your data source, right? And then the infrastructure is where do you put that thing, right? Like for that, you need compute. Compute is more towards processing part, right? Like you're taking, you're enriching, you're massaging, you're cleansing, your EDA process. All that fits into the compute requirements, right? Then you have accelerators. Accelerators are your GPUs or your in-memory computing devices, or it could be your advanced networking switches, right? So accelerators plays a vital role. For example, you have, let's assume that you are training 100 GB of data. Imagine how much time does it take if I just train with CPUs, right? I need GPUs as well there, because to enhance the process, to enhance the computing process, or to parallel or distribute my load across the system. So I need accelerators, right? So sometimes it so happens that I can't always go and get the data from the storage medium itself. I might have to store it in memory because I need the access. I need to have access spontaneously. So how do I do it? That is where accelerator comes into the play. Next is your network, right? So networking is all about your switches. How do I transfer my data from one medium to another medium, or how do I pull the data, push the data, all that, right? So, okay, once you do the inference at the edge, do you stop there? No, I need to pull that data from the edge and push it to the core to make to make that as a historical data for me to enhance or retrain or whatever you want to do, right? Then comes your storage. Storage is actually where your data is getting stored, right? It is your disk where you're putting your data itself, right? So this is the infrastructure layer, right? On top of it, you have data storage and ingestion. Data storage is all your where your actual data is sitting, right? So it could be your data lake, it could be your delta lake, it could be your data mesh, it could be your data fabric, right? So we have ample of options in that layer as well. Earlier we had only like data warehouse, and then the traditional databases, and then data lake, right? So now we have data lake and different architectures, data mesh. Those are all your storage layer for us, right? And then comes your ingestion layer. So ingestion layer is mostly to tools which would help you to ingest the data. How do you stream, right? You need to have a connector. How do you do that and pull the data, right? That's where that software tool layer comes in. On top of that, you have data processing and persistence, right? So processing is all about you're taking the data and then you cleanse it, and then it makes sense, right? For example, today, if you see, there is a lot of historical data which is pushed or which is there in the data lake, but I need to for anybody to make use of it, right? Like I have to cleanse it. To put it in a simple terms, the water itself, right? So the water comes to the aquaguard, and from the aquaguard it gets purified, and it will have all the required minerals and all. Again, there is no evidence for it, but that's what they claim. So, and then that's the water you say that it is processed, right? So that's the process of processing. It's all about cleansing it and making it more useful, right? And then the persistence. Persistence is more of intermittent storage, right? So processed data, I can't push it back always to the core system. I need to store it somewhere in chunk where, because I might have clubbed 4 to 5 different tables, right? So I need to bring those tables data together and have processed it, and I have a result. I can't just let go that result, because again, I running that whole query for 4 5 systems would take a lot of resources and all those things, right? So I need to have some intermittent storage where I can store the data intermittently. That's where the processing or the persistence comes into the play. Then on top of that, you have AI/ML models where you take historical data to build the model. Once the model is built, you push it for the inference, and then inference will give you some result, and then you will do model monitoring, and all those things comes into the play. And that is the AI/ML layer, right? On top of that, you have the advanced analytics, reporting, and business intelligence, right? So if you see that left diagram, this is the layer which shows that house beautifully built. If you see the data, how the data was, then it's sorted, and how the stages goes, right? So that is the only layer which is seen by the top end users. They will not understand the Binet structure until they are the one who is building it, right? For especially for the business consumers or business executives, for them the reporting, the business intelligence, because that's what matters for them. They see that and they make the strategies or the decisions, right? And then on top of everything, you have use cases. So whatever we are building, so we need to align to some vertical and some use case, because the things or the framework or the tools itself change from use case to use case perspective. The tools which I use for structured data might not be helpful for the unstructured data always. It could be sometimes, but not always, right? So this is all about data platform, where you have multiple layers, and these multiple layers all come together. It's so beautifully architected, so beautifully. The data passes from one stage to another stage. If you have experience, you will be thrilled to see that data, how it goes, right? It's like our own life journey. When we are born, it's like how we process across multiple stages of our life. It's similar, that data also cut across multiple layers, right? This was existing. If we move on, the last bottom, I've added extra pillars, right? Highlighted in green. This got added eventually. Initially, it was only the data platform. Eventually, these got added. It's like security, governance, orchestration, and observability. These 4 aspects are like, security is utmost, right? Because anybody today, security is becoming a more concern. If I want to share my data, I would think twice or thrice, right? Is my data being used rightly, right? I don't want to share and then get into a compliance factors that it has been misused, right? Because sometimes if it is a healthcare, you can think of it like, sharing the patient data, which is not at all, which can lead to a lot of other complications in the system itself, right? So security comes into the play. And security, you have to take care of the security at every layer, right? And then the governance, right? Governance is all about lineage, cataloging, indexing, and tagging, right? When I say lineage, we saw how data moves from one layer to another layer, right? From ingestion to processing to AI/ML to till the visualization, right? Every layer, do we know how the data has been transitioned, right? So I want to know where it was at this layer, how it has transitioned, or can I keep track of what happened in the previous layer, right? That's all about lineage. And then comes your cataloging and indexing. Cataloging and indexing is more of how do I tag it, right? It is basically to make a faster access to the data and keep the similar data in a one bucket so that it becomes easier for me to access, right? That's all the governance speaks. And also it also speaks about the access controls, right? The data steward, right? Who is supposed to access the data, right? And how it is supposed to access. The other thing also to think of data governance plays a vital role is like the nomenclatures itself, right? Every organization will have like different views, like finance, IT operations, engineering, or some different views, and then they all should use a common terminology, right? Business glossary is what the terminology referred as in the governance space, right? If we are not using a common terminology, then how would I get to know that it's the same reference we are referring to, right? If everybody start creating their own nomenclature, again we are regenerating the data, and we are again creating a lot of confusions, right? So that's where the governance, policies, quality, and all those things plays a vital role. That's got added to the data platform. Next comes the orchestration. The orchestration itself is like, managing everything at every layer, right? So today customers or end user ask for simplicity. Without the simplicity, I can handle, right? And when we are doing that, I really need to orchestrate at every layer. How am I orchestrating? For example, even if earlier we had only Docker containers, later on Kubernetes got into the play, right? Why did it come? It is basically for the orchestrating the containers. Later we got started calling pods, right? So if you tie back and see, everything requires somebody who is controlling at every layer, right? So that's where the orchestration comes into the play. Next is your observability, right? So observability is all about how do I measure, right? Like, okay, I did this, but do I know what is my metrics, right? I need to set some threshold. Even at the pre-processing or the processing layer, I have done something. Do I know, did I reach the expectations or the mark which I was supposed to reach? I don't know, right? That's where this observability is becoming more prominent these days to understand the metrics, the performance, and how are we doing and all those things, right? So that's all about it. And if you see how the data pipelines would look like, right? This is just one example. You need not to take it fully that this is the only way, right? With the use cases, with the consumers, with the verticals, these data pipelines change tremendously, right? And if you see, it all starts with the data sources, which I already mentioned. That is your data creation if you refer to the previous slide, right? You have multiple data sources, be it batch data sources or be it near-time or real-time data sources, right? We have different data sources. Then you need connectors, right? And you need to model it. And then you need a workflows, because without workflows, how will I know? Or I can't manually go and click and do the things, right? I need a workflow which would help me to process from one layer to another layer automatically, because we are in the automation world today, right? So that's where those top three layers comes into the play. Next is more of processing perspective, right? Like Spark or Databricks is the way the tool is mentioned, right? They are with the Delta Lake, right? So how do we process it? Then you have batch query engine. Any batch queries, and it is mostly for running your ad hoc queries or interactive queries. That's where it comes into play. And then you have in the final stage, or you have streaming, right? If it's a near real time or real time data, how would I stream? I use Kafka, NiFi, or some streaming engine to pull the data and push it to the data lake, right? And then you have in the mid center, you can see data lake, right? So data lake, we all know that it is existing from long time, and it's all about data, how it is stored, how it is dumped, or whatever it is, right? And then it should support multiple different data formats. It could be Evro, it could be Parquet, it could be CSVs, it could be images or whatever, right? So that's where your data lakes comes into the play. You are just getting the data, you're connecting to the, and you're pulling the data from there and pushing it to the data lake, right? And that can be consumed by your data warehouse, or it could be consumed by as a historical data to your or data science platform itself, right? So I need historical data to train my model. So where do I pull it? I pull it from the data lake. Or it could be ad hoc query engine. For example, earlier or now also we write some queries, right? For example, I want to understand something where I just go query 2-3 tables and then I would get the result, right? So that's where your ad hoc query or interactive analytics comes into the play. Real-time analytics, right? So you can have some engines which was already pre-built, and then that does the real-time analytics for you, right? And then it all goes to output, which is our visualization layer, which if you remember in the last slide, it is all about the visualization. That goes to your output. So if you see, there are a lot of lines which are running across, which are like connected, which wherein the data flows from one layer to another layer beautifully from one place to another place, right? And at the bottom itself, you can see metadata management is all about data governance, right? It is one small part of data governance, I would say. Quality and testing is again small amount of data, data governance and also data observability. And then entitlements and security, it is at most no choice for us to compromise on the security aspects to it. And then your observability, right? So this whole framework together shows us that it's a data pipeline, how the data pipeline would look like for us, right? With this, we understood data platforms, we understood data pipelines. I have data, I have data platforms, I have data pipelines. Now, what are the design principles? So if somebody is trying to design a data platform, what are the things I should look, or what are the things I should think of when I'm designing any data platform? It could be scalability, flexibility, simplicity, data-driven and enabled, security, and multi-tenancy, right? Scalability is all about how do I scale. Today, you're building a system for 10 users. Tomorrow, you might expect 100 users to also be using that system, right? Does your system scale, right? And this is a prominent production problem which we face, right? So Currently, I'm working with one of the customers where we started with 10 TB of data, and now their expectation is 100 TB, right? So which one do I scale? Do I need to scale just the accelerators because I'm using it for the compute? And or do I need to scale the storage, right? So you have to make a decision. And with that, your system should be supportive of scale, right? It's not just the hardware, but it's also your software tier should be able to scale, because your software should be also be tested to support so many users or support so much of load on the system, right? And then flexibility. I can't build a system with one use case in mind or one persona in mind, right? So it should be so flexible that I should be, if I build one data platform, it should support my batch analytics, it should support my interactive analytics, and tomorrow if I want to run some new things, right? For example, your LLM itself, right? If you want to build that model and you want to use the same data platform, it should be flexible enough for me to just add some resources and start consuming it, right? That's all about flexibility. Simplicity. If you complicate the things, nobody will buy from you, right? Even if I come and tell you 100 things about, I mean, it might have 100 good features, right? But if it is complicated, I would just say no, because even if you're mobile devices, right? Like when mobile is designed, you should think of consumers from young age till the old age people, right? So there are different, end users with different demographics, different age, different thought process. So how do you balance? So that is all about simplicity. How can you make somebody's life simple? Don't when somebody comes to you with a problem, if you complicate, the next time they wouldn't come back and turn back and talk to you, right? So how do you simplify their problem to make their life easier? That's all about, right? So that's the simplicity. And it should be data driven and enabled. No doubt about it. If it is not data driven, if you're not giving ample data at every stage of any designing platform, nobody would look at it, right? So you should have evidences why it is and how it is, right? And then security, again, no second thought, right? Security is the utmost thing which everybody look, and every organization look for it. Believe me, even though we are with NDA with many of the customers, right? They still don't share the data with us. They don't trust us, right? They will say, we'll give you some similar thing, you just do it and tell us. You don't touch our data, right? And they don't even let us touch their logs, right? They just show where the error is, right? It is so difficult. It becomes so difficult sometimes to even to understand what the error message says, right? So security should be taken into the consideration at the bottom layer from the niche of everything, right? And then comes your multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy is like, as I already mentioned, I can't design one system for one user, right? So when you're designing a data platform, you should think of it, designing it from data engineer's perspective, data scientist perspective, MLOps engineer perspective, IT operations perspective, and then the end consumer's perspective, right? Because if I start designing one system for everybody, it's not a feasible option for anybody to build the system on spot for each individual users, right? And not just that, right? When you're doing it, the multi-tenancy also says that you should design it in such a way that the resources are isolated, the data is isolated. What I'm doing shouldn't be seen by the other person. These are some of the production grade requirements, because one data scientist says that whatever the work I'm doing, it shouldn't be seen by another data scientist, right? So again, why it is, there are some compliance within the same organization within the different BUs, right? So that is the level where we are reaching. So that is the kind of isolation which we have to bring in. So all these thoughts should be thought across from multiple layers while designing the system, right? And then this is tremendous, right? Because we all are focusing only on this. And if you ask me, okay, data is there, but how do you make the data available? So you have data platforms, you have data pipelines, you have design principle, everything is well and good. Lastly left is technology, tools and technology, right? So tools, you will be lost and you will be surprised to see this tools itself which are available in the market out there, right? And some tools, if you ask me how many I know here, it might be countable, because I might not be able to touch all the tools. It is highly difficult for any human being to touch all the tools in this written in this slide, right? I can't even see and read those. Then forget about touching and going and installing and playing with those tools, right? So it's crowded. A lot of things available in the market, kind of to go and do the things, right? So that's what I wanted to connect, right? With all this, now the questions arise: are we all set? Do we have everything what we needed for to make the use of the data? My answer is straight away no, right? This is the situation sometime I literally will be in, right? That spaghetti, the spaghetti itself is a data, right? It is so wrangled, so tangled, it is swamped. We have swamped the data, right? I don't know what is happening at the beneath layer itself, right? Because we can't see all the data. Sometimes I can't see all the data. Sometimes it exists. We don't know how to use it, and it's so so difficult, right? And the tools, right? You saw the tools. Can anybody tell me which tool can be integrated with which tool? Can anybody tell me which tool can be used only for this type of data? The answer is no, right? I can't. We can't predict just by playing with the tool. Also, you can't predict until and unless you go test, because nobody is going to that level to understand if this tool will solve all the problems, or if it will solve which all problems it is going to solve, right? This is a challenge, and this is the current scenario. And I will be in this situation sometimes when I'm sitting with the customers. Believe me, this happens with me multiple times. Okay, and then why, right? And if you see, what does the stats say, right? And here are the opportunities. Here, from here onwards, you'll start seeing the opportunities where you guys can start thinking and how you can start making the difference, to make consumers or end users to start using more AI, or more, making AI to the productions, right? Or data to the production, whatever you call, right? So if you see on the left, right, we are just wasting time of about 33% of data engineers just to prepare the data. Imagine, just to prepare the data. Nothing, I'm doing nothing. I'm just taking that data and preparing to the next stage. Maybe it could be like batch analytics to do the reporting, or it could be ML to train the data, or it could be for something else, right? And how is my responses, right? For the request, it is 29%, right? And lack of collaboration. We are in the same. This makes sometimes crazy, though they will be in the similar organization, similar way, but there will be a lot of collaboration aspects, because there are different personas involved in the systems which we are building today. It could be data engineers, it could be data scientists. Do we have common terminology, right? The data governance comes into the play. We are not able to understand. We don't have common terminology which can be used for everybody, so that the collaboration happens seamlessly, because the language I am speaking might not be understood by the language, or might not be understood by the another user who is the consumer of it, right? And then lack of clarity. We don't have, sometimes they spend time understanding what are my clarity on the requirements itself, right? And tools are too complicated. You have lack of knowledge on data sources. All these are very absolutely true, and we are experiencing it, right? And if you see the numbers, 80% of the CEO says that they are concerned about data quality. That is, yes, 100% we are concerned about the data quality, because the data which is getting generated, 47% of the record says that at least there will be one error, which is from the data which is getting generated, right? You can't trust fully onto the system. You can't completely rely onto the system to make the decision for you, right? Whatever it is coming, how do I measure it? That's where the data observability comes into the play, right? And if you say last 68% of the organizations say that they have disparate data, which is having the negative impact on their organization, right? So this proves that we are not up to the mark where we are supposed to be. And this is why we are lagging to get into the production and start using AI or ML or whatever the technology to the fuller extent, right? And then what are the, some of the things which are lying behind? I already touched some of this, right? The data availability and accessibility. I have huge data. Am I able to access it? Is it available to me at the right time? No. Then comes your data integration. How do I integrate data from two different sources? For example, I have some data in China, and then I have some data in US, right? Itself, right? Can I bring the data from here to here? No, the compliance requirements comes into the play, right? And HP has a beautiful solution for this problem itself. That solution helps. How do we integrate, or how do we plan and delve into the deeper solution where the data sharing cannot be happened? How do you train your models independently, but make sure that model is behaving accurately even for the data set which is not there in the US itself, right? So that's another story, right? We can delve deeper later on. Then you have data quality. The data is not quality. Yes, the data is not up to the mark. It's not up to the benchmark where I want to start consuming it, right? Observability, security, governance. These are all absolutely required, and these are the things which are not in place today for us to start consuming. These are the areas where a lot of research is required, a lot of studies are required. A lot of effort is required for us to build and time together to make the things better for everybody. Right? Now let's see, start understanding this, whatever I told, right? There are challenges and there are certain things which are making our life not easy, right? Let's understand these with some industry examples itself, right? And whatever I'm presenting here, it's all about my real-time experience, which I'm focusing on or I'm working with some of the customers, right? Healthcare and life science, this is at the top notch, right? This is one vertical where we have a lot of opportunities, but at the same we are facing a lot of challenges also, and you will have a lot of opportunities in this space, right? So if I start categorizing, I might not have listed all the use cases available in HLS category, right? I've basically picked up which are like more easier or more prominent based on the again the demography which I received, right? So again, I'm tying back why I did that study before I come here, because again that's the data points which would help me to make the things better for you guys, right? Medical research, healthcare providers and medical suppliers, life sciences and pharma. Medical research, oncology research, genomic research, and structural biology. I'm working with a company where they are dealing with genomic research and structural biology, right? Believe me, DNAs, right? So how those, they deal with the DNAs, how those vary, how those combine, what we can do with that, and how those would react in different situations and different scenarios, right? Or for different diseases, let's say, right? And those files are, if you see with the naked eyes, you don't understand what those files really mean to me because it's zeros and ones. I'm not a domain expert at the end of the day. You require a close collaboration between a data scientist and a scientist itself, and the data engineers and ML ops engineers or ML engineers, basically to tie and make that whole solution to work, because each one comes with their own expertise, right? And each one has to use the similar terminology. Again, I go back to my data governance here because I need to have business glossaries which would talk similar terms to everybody to make them understand, right? So that's where this plays a vital role of saying that, how can we make the researchers to start consuming more of technology, AI, ML, and everything, right? That's come to the play there, right? And I was reading the news other day, right? It is quite interesting to share here. The human embryos are developed just using the stem cells. Just imagine, just using the stem cells, we are in a stage where we are developing human embryos. I don't know what's the word and where the word is going towards altogether, right? With that, my next question was like security, right? How does that it behave? Is it going to behave like a machine or a human being? I don't know, right? So how can we make their life better, and how can we prove what are the evidence behind that, right? So again, data comes into the play and your AIML comes into the play, all those research areas, right? That is one vast field which is there today, understanding there, right? And then healthcare providers and medical suppliers, right? I can just touch the fraud analytics or claims management or even the remote patient monitoring here, right? When somebody comes with a pain to the hospital, right? If the receptionist is not behaving well with you, right? All that the person who has come to you is requires empathy, right? That's itself make that person to come out of the pain to some extent. But if the person has arrived and you are not taking good care of it, then it worsens the situation, right? So a lot of hospitals are spending a lot of money to understand or to do the video analytics at that layer, right? Or it could be fraud detections or claims management, because a lot of fraud happens because what if somebody is stealing the patient's data? The hospitals will be sued, right? Because that's our utmost secure data, right? And we have written it's like, the human beings, all their vitals are there with them, right? They all the, my whole, thing, my whole body structure is with them, or my whole body details are with them, right? And that has to be secured with utmost security, right? Fraud detection comes into the game. Or it could be like, sometimes the insurance claims are fraud, right? A lot of goof up happens with the insurance claims itself, right? So are we controlling? This is more towards like, predictive analytics and binary classification problem, or where you want to know 0 or 1 kind of predictions, right? So that is more towards that kind of aspect, right? Then comes your life sciences and pharma, drug discovery. COVID is the best example here, right? You have a virus. You want to know how this virus can be, or how the impact of this virus can be reduced, right? So when you're developing any medicine or drug, you kind of, you need to have different compositions of that drug. How do you measure those compositions, and how do you tie that to say that this is kind of, working well in this, right? So there, technology can help. And again, if I little bit go back one step and think of it, right? All the clinical trials are done on animals today. So somewhere we are again going back to the sustainability. We are talking about sustainability. At the same time, we need to be little cognizant on while testing also, right? Can this be reduced using technology? That's the question. And yes, there are efforts going in that arena as well. How do we do it, right? And the other example, the classic example would be like, your protein powders, right? So weight loss journey. That is a classic example today for me. You have lot of products in the market, and people are consuming it, right? And they're reducing the weight. But what is the the long-term impact? If some people say it is going to impact your health, some people say it is not going to impact your health. Which is right? Do we have evidences behind that? And how that drug itself is going to behave? What is that efficacy? How is it going to turn, or what are the impact it is going to create on item during the during some years of it, after one person started consuming? How many years, like 5 years down the line, what is the impact of it, right? So that's again another domain itself, where you need a lot of data, a lot of evidences, a lot of research has to be done to kind of understand whatever the drug we are discovering is right or wrong. So these are some of the examples or some of the trending use cases which are there today in the healthcare domain, and a lot of research is going on, and a lot of things are happening in this space for sure, right? And then what are the challenges? Okay, this is very close to my heart. And these are the challenges which we are seeing with a lot of healthcare customer, at least 2 to 3 customers, I'm seeing these challenges, right? Tool integration challenges. I showed that the big list of tools, right? And believe me, I don't have one single framework, right? And I don't expect to have one single framework to solve all the problems, right? But at least I should have close to 80% of the framework to solve this problem. No, right? When we get into the tools market, when we start seeing, I mentioned about the genomic research in the last slide, right? So genomic research, the files itself are very different. Those are called as BAM files, BSD files, SAT files, and different. It's the structure itself is different, right? And the tools are not tested to these files today. The tools are just tested to your structural data. What do I do with my semi-structured and unstructured data, right? To some extent, it is tested with unstructured data. Then what about the files which I have to do with my current customer requirements, right? A lot of challenges there. And how sometimes what it so happens that, for example, I can give one crucial example, right? When you do an inference, basically we try to convert it to a different, we take a model, we convert it to a different format, and then do the inferencing, right? That conversion itself is a challenging, because the model was trained with a different data set, and when I want to convert it, we hit the challenges because it is not tested and trained with that data, right? Then comes your synthetic data generation here, right? So synthetic data generation is all good, right? This problem I faced synthetic data generation like 3-4 years back, right? When I wanted to load the system and test, I did not have data, right? So I generated writing some scripts and all, but is it a foolproof solution? I can do that for structural data. What would I do with this kind of files which doesn't have any existence, right? So a lot of scope for it, right? That is another opportunity to see. Then you have security and privacy. They are at the most crucial about security and privacy, because they are research organization, right? You are dealing with the data which cannot be shared. Literally, they won't share anything with us, right? Even though you're on NDA, you are using customer environment. All your access will be lost when you're working on the customer environment. Still, they will not let you touch that data, because it is most important for us, right? How do we secure that data? And even at the beginning itself, right, the RBAC policies, how strong your RBAC policies are, right? And they will have some tools which is existing for authorization and authentication. You have to go and hook it to it, right? And if your tool is not supporting this system, you are going to hit the challenge there. This is the exact situation and the solution or the scenario which we are with. That spaghetti with that baby. Yes, that's a situation sometimes, because when we start hitting this kind of problems, right? Application integration challenges. We just take for granted, right? Like, I have tool, I have application, I'm done with my work, right? But that's not the case. please understand or please remember there are legacy applications which are already running in customer environment. For example, I develop a model, I'll put it to a fleet device or edge device to make some inference, right? Is it newly something we are doing? For example, it could be a microscope or it could be a X-ray machine itself. Is this something which we are doing it recently? No. There are legacy applications which already exist in their environment, right? So I have to be cognizant, I have to be thoughtful when I'm developing model, when I'm developing my application, when I'm developing my data platform, ensure that their legacy applications are taken into consideration, because you can't let go their legacy applications. It's highly impossible, right? So how do we balance? Where is the common framework, right? And data quality, they are dumps of data. I don't know which data is right, because sometimes it so happens that we are not domain experts to understand which is a quality data, right? How do I develop some tools? Do we have anything exist in the market? There are, but they are not helping to full extent, right? And deriving the insights. Okay, I'm building a model, I'm making an inference, or I have a reporting, and I need to build the reporting using this inference, but I have to massage this data or enrich this data. For example, you have inference, you got somebody's blood test done, and you have some sugar levels measured. Okay, to which patient does that sugar level belongs to? What is his history? How do I derive the insight out of this, right? How do I massage it? How do I enrich it? It is that you have to tie different systems all together, and tying these different systems which are different in nature, which handle different type of data, is a challenge. These are real production challenges, why it is taking long time for us to go and deliver any model or go and deliver any data platform for that matter, right? People, if you ask me what is the timeline, it is like 12 months is what we are targeting to deliver one small AI ML model, right? So a lot of time is going here. This is where I see a lot of opportunities, right? I think I covered most of the points there, but we need, and also another thing when it comes to the AI ML, the trustworthy AI, the robustness. How do I rely on the system? It is making some decision for me. I get scared. It is making some decision for me. Is it making the right thing? Because I'm the one who is sitting behind and developing those. I'm not sure if the data, what we are measuring of the right quality. How do I go and get myself tested with a machine which doesn't have any proof values, right? So that's where, how do you kind of create the efficiency approaches between the human beings and the machines, that has to be bought. What are the ethical guidelines? Where are the laws? We don't have laws today, right? If autonomous car goes and hits somebody, who is punishable, right? If it's a person, you will go catch hold of that person, but if it's a machine, whom do you trust, right? Because the person who is sitting in the car is not driving the car, or the person who developed that model, you will go catch hold of that person. I don't know. We don't have strict laws. That's the reason where we are not able to bring certain things to the production. Though yes, it exists, but we don't have guidelines. We don't have laws. We don't have framework. And then how do we collaborate? The synthetic data generation itself, right? The example of collaborative public data sets and data platform for AI training and evaluation purposes, right? I don't have synthetic data, right? I need to generate, but the type of data itself is unknown. How do we come up with some tools which could generate the synthetic data for me, right? For different approaches. So these are some of the opportunities where you can start thinking or delve deeper to understand, where we are and what is stopping us to going to complete full-fledged form, right? Another close example I would think of is a retail chain, right? Retail chain also requires a lot of data and AI in today's aspect, right? And again, if I see there are a lot of use cases, I have categorized into 3 and I have picked up only few use cases: visibility, efficiency, and flexibility. Visibility is all about how do I get my real-time essence from my data? Am I making evidence-based decisions? Am I making informed decisions? Do I have valid data to make whatever the decisions I'm making? For example, environmental monitoring itself, right? If you see the environmental monitoring, if you go to pharma, right, the drugs has to be stored with certain temperatures in certain regions, and that temperature varies, right? So, and we are responsible for that. Global warming, sustainability, we are killing the environment, and we are trying to find the solution for it, right? So, and you can't predict, are your predictions right? right? That environmental monitoring itself plays a vital role to make that drug to be kept in track, or to make it to consumable by somebody, right? And then your marketing or marketing for performance or real time inventory, right? Because a lot of sometimes I have also seen some of the numbers, it is not coming to my mind right now, but the number says that the theft in retail chain is more from the internal people rather than from the customers. This is what the number says, right? So how do I monitor it, right? And how do I bring in the security aspects to it? How do I control it, right? And the other aspects also, if you look at from the visibility perspective, is do I have the study, or do I have all the set of tools which would tell me how the traffic would vary from from time to time, region to region, right? So all these categories falls in the visibility, right? And then comes your efficiency, right? So efficiency is all about, am I operating or am I running my business with full efficiency, right? It could be automation, contactless deliveries, because especially when during the during the COVID, the contactless deliveries are all those were playing vital role, because that's what the norm was, right? Are we prepared for the next pandemic? Prepared, or do we know what we are going to do with that, right? And then you have planogram optimization, right? So the planogram optimization, I can quote with one example. It is very interesting use case. Okay. Okay, let's do this. I took my daughter, right? She asked me for some craft works, right? I took her to Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby is a store where you get all essential for your craft work, right? And she wanted some paintings and some brushes, right? We entered the painting aisle, and then we saw at the entrance, I just found first the board itself, where you can stick your canvas or paper to paint, right? And the next section is canvas or the papers or the wooden pellets which you need to, which you are going to paint on, right? And the next section was brushes, different types of brushes of different sizes. Then comes your paint. Then comes your other accessories. How do you make it more beautiful, right? Imagine if this was not organized so well, right? What I would have been doing, right? I would have searching from one end to another end, right? If it's a big store, right? If it's a bigger square feet store, how would I manage that? And what is the experience? It's all for retail or for this kind of business, creating the customer experience is at the highest task, right? And it is attracting the business. So they are, with this planogram optimization kind of use cases, they're attracting the business, right? By showing this after this after this. And my daughter started saying me, after this, you buy this, you buy this. I wanted to buy 2 things, but I ended up buying 10 things there, right? So that is the way they make business. And how do you create the customer experience? You are creating experience by creating a nice deck of keeping everything, right? So that's where the planogram optimization, and believe me, the data and AI is playing the role there, because the things changes from season to season, right? The things changes from channel to channel. How do we manage that, right? They predict and they keep it the things in right way. Then comes your flexibility. In flexibility, I'll touch omni-channel marketing. So omni-channel marketing is all about, you order something online, you go to the store and you pick up, right? Or pointless or contactless deliveries, right? So are we prepared? My question goes back to the same thing. Are we prepared for the next pandemic? How are we going to handle that kind of scenario? How much of data it is going to generate? Do we have a right systems in place? Do we have a right tool set in place? Are we going to predict some things, right? And then customer recommendation. That's where all our online business runs today, right? You go shop something and it will start showing you recommendation in all other websites, or even whatever the website you open, it will start showing you the recommendations, right? These are some of the use cases where the data and AI getting utilized to the fuller extent, right? And but yes, again, there are challenges. These are the challenges. I'll touch only one challenge. Again, this was very close problem which we solved, but if you ask me, was I satisfied when I solved this problem? I'm still not, right? Because this was highly customized solution, and believe me, none of the tools helped us to solve this problem. Though there are hundreds of tools in this domain, right? This is the metaverse problem, which is like known for millennials, right? All you millennials are behind metaverse and creating the virtual world, right? So this was the problem where, imagine you are collecting, the sensor is collecting the data. It is from the very high level, it is collecting the data, right? So when you are collecting the data from the sensor, so you need to be cognizant of your geocoordinate specialist, this thing also, right? GIS, right? So am I collecting just the data? No, I'm not just collecting the data, but I'm also measuring that coordinates, geospatial coordinates, right? So I need to collect 2 different variety of data, right? Okay, collecting is fine, right? And then if you see, so basically this was, okay, let me take one step back. This was basically all to deal with point cloud data, right? The point cloud data is your dots, which you see at the left, extreme left, that's a point cloud data, right? And they use this point cloud data to build the tiles or the virtual world for themselves, right? So creating that. And how this point cloud data is captured or what is it? The technologies are LiDAR and photogrammetry, right? So there are different varieties to it. And that's a different arena or the space together. And again, this is a different, totally a different type of data itself in it, right? And it is doing a lot of things, but still, you know, lot of challenges, especially in terms of storing processing, right? There are a lot of issues with it, right? Believe me, we evaluated Unity, Unreal, Omniverse, or you name any Maya, all the 3D tools we evaluated, but nothing helped us to fuller extent. Again, I have to go with the customization, and I'm not fully satisfied with it, right? Because we didn't have any option. We did a lot of customization, right? So the challenges is like when you capture that data, you have to make sure that you're capturing everything, and you bring that data to the storage tier, you store it, and then you have to ensure that the data which you are storing is not stored as is, right? Because when you are building the virtual world, you use small tiles, right? So those using those point cloud data, you create a small tiles. It's like your tiles, how they're assembled in your bathrooms or in the kitchen backslash, right? I have to be cautious on arranging those. If something is missed, you're gone, because in the virtual world we operate with the DIs, right? So these tiles need to be rightly formed, right? And they need to be tagged, they need to be indexed, because the way we have to access, it's a huge, the dense of the data is very huge, right? So how do I store it? How do I index it? How do I tag it? What are the guardrails I'm going to follow to cleanse the data? How do I process it? How do I make anybody to consume it, right? In this case, the consumers of the data were from varied ranges. The consumers were like not known how to use the system, to the consumers who are very well versed and processing and building this virtual world. So we have to be cognizant while doing the solution to be making sure that it is consumed by everybody, right? And again, labeling has to be so much efficient that everybody follows what the labeling is and how to track the lineage itself, right? So all these are the challenges and opportunities in this space. So dealing with point cloud data is a different arena together. How do you store it, access it, manage it, process it, tag it? How do I build that whole system is something which is challenging in today's world, for that matter, right? And then comes your generative AI. Generative AI is a hype, right? It's all, everybody knows about generative AI, and I'm also working with some customers who are thinking to start using of generative AI, right? And the questions I get, I'll just tell the questions, so that shows what are the opportunities we have in that space, right? The questions is, there are three ways to build a generative AI model. Either you can start it from scratch, or you can use the open source model, or you can build, there are some enterprise companies who have those models, and they give the APIs where you can go and train the model with your data set. Building from the scratch is a little difficult procedure, because you need a lot of data first thing, and the process is too huge, you need a lot of resources, right? The upfront investment is too high for anybody to think of it, right? And then goes to the open source. The open source, the challenges are security challenges, right? So we are giving data and we are giving control to somebody to control human beings, right? So that's the problem. The next point is, okay, I will use enterprise models, and then they gives us the APIs and we'll start building it. But that also, believe me, customers are not ready to accept full extent. They are saying, give us an isolated environment, make sure this environment is not linked to anywhere to our other existing environments, and data, there shouldn't be no data leak should happen, right? And they are going to screen at every level, right? So lot of challenges. It's very good technology, but to making it to the production, nobody is thinking, how do we make it to the production? Everybody, even I know when I was playing with some of the tools, right? Once I set the context to any tools, right? Like using the prompt engineering itself, right? The next moment, the model, how it behaves is whatever the context I have given, it will start answering me in the same way. It is biased. It is not trustworthy, because it doesn't know how to change the context, right? For me, if you ask me in the very next minute, talk about something, I can do, because that's a human intelligence. You have that human intelligence built in, right? But when it goes to the model, it is not, right? So these are the real challenges. Don't think of building the new models, think of making it to the production. see the opportunities. What are the, I have listed all the opportunities here, right? So how do we make sure that these are met, and how can we make this, more successful, right? This is all about generative AI. And finally, this one thing I'll just touch, and I'll stop here, right? This is all about sustainability. And another thing is very, very important topic, right? So, if you see the first two images, that's what we did, right? We are responsible as a human beings. The third image, where Mother Earth showed us what she can do, right? Or how will be her reaction if you continue doing this? That's COVID, right? So, and then if you see some of the stats says that, the European supply chain says no data, no compliance, no business. If you don't have data, if you don't have compliance for it, then no business for you guys, right? And even the Bloomberg survey, right? If you see on the right, it also says that, the increased demand for ESG data, but the data management itself is a challenge still, because everybody are speaking about the sustainability. If you see on the left side, how data can help, right? If I have the data to make my sustainability successful, I need data, right? For example, how do I make a evidence-based decisions, right? Do I have matrices to say what side of sustainability I should approach in different countries or different regions? I told the example of Caribbean and America itself, right? So two different demographics, two different geographies, right? And same framework will not work in both areas, right? And we also need to understand what are the right opportunities. Everybody are speaking about it. What are the right opportunities for us, right? And where is the collaboration? How do I collaborate? How do I bring the data from one region to another region to say that, we are collaboratively working, right? And then on the right side, you can see that, a lot of hindrances in understanding. It is very complex. Data is very complex. How do I understand? Do I have a common framework, right, to handle the situation? And tools are, again, they are hindering the sustainability. There is no governance mechanism. Yes, sustainability is good. We want to reduce the carbon footprint. We want to reduce the power consumption. We are just dumping the data, creating the data swamps. How will you, what can you expect from sustainability? Because you are, piling up all the data in the servers or the storage, right? And it is consuming power. You are creating the carbon footprint behind it, right? So instead of doing that, cleanse the data at the first shot, right? Use the data which is only required for you. Let go of the data which is not useful for you, or archive. Find the compression tier. There are compression technologies. Are they full efficient? I don't know, right? So these are some of the opportunities which are wide open in the space of sustainability, and even I'm working on some of these aspects to understand how do we do it. I don't have all the answers, but these are the opportunities and these are the gaps where we have today in the industry from the sustainability aspects, right? So I covered a lot of topics. I know that, right? So at the end, I just, if given a chance, what would be my thought process, right? When designing any solution, think it from this. When designing any product, be it matter, solution, or product, right? Think it from the solution approach, right? Think it in a broader spectrum. Don't think of one problem, go in a narrow road, right? Think of it. How these tools integrate legacy applications. I touched a lot of points, right? How do I handle the data? So are these getting covered? I know that one system will not have all the 100% things. At the end of the day, nothing can be perfect, right? But at least reach to the 80 to 85% of the goal, right? Apply design thinking. Sit with problem. Don't jump to the solution. If you jump to the solution, and the major mistake we are doing, the tools landscape we saw, we are just thinking of solution. That's why those many tools exist. Are we really using all those tools? No, right? Apply design thinking. Understand the problem statement very clearly. What is that you are trying to solve, right? Don't jump to say that how do I solve it, right? That's help. And then understanding of the domain. I know that it is not easier for us to, we are not domain experts, including me, but still I put an effort to understand what they do, what do they do, and why do they do, right? Understand their core problems, right? And then integration, right? Understand it from the integration perspective. Reduce the complexity, make it simplified. Then think of growth and expansion, scale, right? These are some of the principles which you guys should think of when you're thinking of any research or any studies or building any tool or anything, right? With this, I think a lot of things will be solved, and we all together can make the technology to be used by the humankind for the good purposes and not for the bad purposes, right? With this, I think I will stop and hand it over back to the team for if there are any Q&As.
Thank you, Ms. Bhuvaneshwari. It was indeed an amazing and informative session. Session is now open for Q&A. Anybody who has any questions can post it in the chat or they can raise their hands. So I myself had personally some questions like about ChatGPT actually.
Mhm.
So ChatGPT, we know how it works. Like it uses an enormous amount of data. So how does it handle such enormous amount of data? Like how does ChatGPT really deal with such enormous amount of data?
Okay, that's where you are. I touched one aspect of it, right? The scale, right? So ChatGPT, if you see, it's an open AI model, right? So how long it took for it to come to existence? It's not 1 or 2 years work, right? If I go back, it's many years work, right? It is built in a way, to handle such a scale of data. But at the same time, if you think of it from the aspects, is it doing the right job? It is not doing fully the right job, right? It handles a lot of data because it is being tested, trained, and it has been when who has designed it, they have thought through a lot of things which are coming into the play here: the scale aspect, the resources aspect, the how does it behave, right? That's where it all comes into the play when it comes to the existence, though it is not 100% doing the right job, but still it is doing job of 80%, right? So hope I answered your question.
Yes, yes, definitely that answered. So, like, there has been a huge debate about ChatGPT, taking over jobs and all everything. But what is like your opinion about it? I
I
just
don't think
wanted
so
to know.
anybody can take, the human jobs. This question, I just love when this question comes, okay, because this is a debatable topic altogether, okay. Again, from my perception, okay, you're developing a model, right? Is job is done? Will machine maintain by itself? No. Even the human being, at the end of our life, we go and rely on somebody to help us, right? I'm not self-sustainable all the time, right? So definitely what we are trying to do is we are creating the technology and we are going to solve those technology problems of long term, right? So the longevity increases. Now the headache, okay, the chat GPT is out the market, right? What is the security? How do I trust? A lot of those ecosystems are getting built, right? So whatever I pointed out, those ecosystems have to be built, right? Who is going to do that job? Will machine do it by itself? No, right? That's where the new opportunities will gets created, where human beings or we engineers need to be versatile to adapt to it. Don't just say, oh, I don't know. No, that is not the answer. Be flexible, be ready to adapt, be versatile. Definitely that will solve a lot of problems and that will create a lot of opportunities as a jobs for us.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely that is. So, anybody, yes, Ashwini Holla, ma'am, please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes,
we can
yes.
hear
Am
you.
I audible?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, we can hear
Okay,
you.
great. So I was just wondering, like, Yashaswini just introduced the topic of ChatGPT and things like that. So I was just wondering, like year on year when students come with projects, it's like we kind of brainstorm and come up with something. So I was just wondering if there's some kind of trends that we can actually work on, say something that's repeatable, something that we can work on our own. Without necessarily using some huge tech stack or say GPUs, something that we can do on our own in this field, such that these projects kind of becomes they become kind of mini launch pads for budding engineers, such that they can start their career with such kind of things. Some ideas for projects, if possible, please.
Okay, yeah, it's a pretty good question, right? Um, those small things actually make a lot of difference, right? For example, chat GPT itself, right? I told chat GPT and then you have security constraints there, right? Um, for example, how do you control which data is being fed to that chat GPT? It need not necessarily depend on huge tech stack. It need not necessarily depend on domain data. It need not necessarily depend on data. It's all about what is my compliance or how is my security measures? What is the framework I can think of, which would say that a person is using or putting a right data to the chat GPT, right? Another example would be how do I integrate this with the existing tech stack? It need not to be all the tech stacks, right? How do I bring in the authorization and authentication aspect to the chat GPT itself, right? Because sometimes it is just that bias, it's unknowingly or unconsciously we feed in some data. How do I ensure that it is the right data which I'm getting fed into, right? So these are some aspects which we can think of in different ways of small things which can be bought into as a small projects. I'm happy to share more. If you need more details, please feel free to contact me. I can share some more details on this for sure. Yeah. Hope I answered your question, ma'am.
Okay, anybody else would like to ask your questions?
Yeah, hi. Bhavna, one question from my end. Like now we see this so much of structured, unstructured, maybe unnecessary data as well. So the data is huge. Now,
Mhm.
how this data is basically being used to say that we are building towards a trustworthy AI?
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a very good question again, right? First of all, whatever the data is being getting generated, are we using all the data? That's the biggest question still everybody is trying to solve, right? I was talking about throughout the presentation, right? Uh, Trustworthy AI to we it's all about a black box which is solving a problem for me. I don't know what is happening inside, right? So how do I train or how do I tell what is happening this within this black box? I need a lot of data for it, right? And are we using all the data and are we using the right data to do it? That's still the question mark, Supriya. That's another opportunity where we can
Yeah.
think of whatever the data I'm using. I don't know, but that's where the data observability, right? The data drift comes into the play, right? There are a lot of tools today exist for data drift to measure structured data and to some extent to unstructured data, but there is nothing exists for the semi-structured data, to my knowledge, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity where we don't have all the things available today for us to solve that problem.
Yeah. Thanks, Bhavna. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Any more questions?
I might have dumped a lot of information, but feel free to reach out to me or to Supriya. You can send the questions if you need anything more detailed information, any of the topics. Definitely happy to help on any of those. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Definitely, we will reach out to you if anybody has any questions. And yes, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker for delivering such an enlightening and inspiring talk today about data, about the sustainability of data and how we use it correctly. Very inspiring, actually. Not many people are aware of it these days. Many wrong uses are done because of the data being in wrong hands. So we have to take this session as an inspiring opportunity, like an opportunity for an inspiration. And we would also like to thank Supriya Kamtenia, an expert technologist at HPE, for having these talks planned at the IEEE forum. We also have an upcoming talk on storage for AI and AI for storage by Ms. Kalapriya Kannan from HPE on 29 September. We would also like to thank the IEEE Bangalore Section Chair 2023, Dr. Aloknath D., IEEE Bangalore Section Chair 2022, Dr. Deepa Shenoy, IEEE Women in Engineering Chair, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, and IEEE Site Bangalore Chair, Ms. Anandi Giridharan, IEEE Women in Engineering Chair Elect 2024, Ashwini Holla, for having the session arranged. Special thanks to Mr. Chengappa for helping the team on the IEEE tools to execute the session as expected. A very special thanks to student volunteer Ananya for her contribution in designing the posters for the session. Now I would request the IEEE leaders to share some thoughts if they would like to.
Vidya Lakshmi ma'am, Anandi ma'am, do you have any inputs?
Yeah, Bona madam, yeah, it's a very wonderful session, and we have given insight from the data to the storage and the process, everything. And also, you talked about more on a healthcare. Do we have any projects or internship kind of a thing wherein students can work from here for you? If any opportunity is there, definitely from IEEE platform, we would like to have an internship kind of a thing. That's what I'm looking for from your end.
I can help with some of the problem statements, definitely, right? But it would be a sideline project, ma'am. Let me be very honest on that, right? So will I be able to take this and push it to the production? It would take time for us, right? We might not be able to involve directly students into these projects because these are production grade projects which I'm currently working, right? But I can create the problem statement which I'm seeing, and definitely students can pursue those, and those would add value, right? From for their persona itself. They can build, and they can tie those stories in and make those as a generic framework to tie it to multiple projects, right? And they can publish it as their own project. But definitely, if that's the thing we are looking for, I'm happy to help with the problem statement, and whatever the help I can do, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that will be great help. Yeah, definitely we will get back to you over
Sure.
mail, so that you can, if you give a problem statement, that will be a great help for students.
Yeah, definitely happy to do that now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, Mr. Chengappa has posted on the chat about HPE has guidelines on offering internship. Sometimes they can be worked offline on program statements, but officially we cannot onboard them as official HPE projects. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Yashaswini, and it was nice listening to Miss Bhuvana. I must say that, well, it's very heartening to see many industry professionals actually coming forward to actually trying to impart their insights to students. But the sad thing that I see nowadays, I wouldn't say it's sad, but this is a trend that's growing, and that's certainly very, this is a big cause for concern, that we don't see many students or any people who are actually interested in taking learnings or insights from such talks and taking it ahead. So I just wish that all the people who have actually made it here today, great. I mean, it's nice, it's very heartening to see that you people are here, but at the same time, unless there are more questions coming up and putting the people who are presenting on their toes, such kind of gatherings will lose their charm. So I really wish we take more advantage of such kind of platforms, such kind of events where we get people from the industry who have actually worked in these fields. So well, that's all that I had to say. I just couldn't stop myself. Thank you so much, Supriya, for having introduced us to the speaker, and who I'm actually looking forward to the next series coming up. Thank you.
I couldn't resist. Okay, this is a problem statement in itself, Ashwini ma'am, right? Do we need to do a trend analysis? I don't know. What's the trend? This is where again the data and the AI will come into the play. And can we do something around this? This itself arise an opportunity and
I
says
think
that
it's a problem of plenty. Things are too easily available, wherein students feel that it's available, I don't need to actually go and hunt. So only when they actually start the process, they kind of get to realize. Probably, who knows?
maybe something like maybe the recommendations, some aspect has to be brought in there, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can take a picture together if everybody can come on video, if possible. I think we are good. I think we have more people coming in, I think. Yeah. Yes, we are good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for attending the session. I would especially like to thank the audience for participating actively in the session. Thank you once again, ma'am, Ms. Bhuvaneshwari Guddad. We are definitely looking forward to working with you in future as well. And thanks to all the organizers for organizing such an amazing event. For the knowledge, purpose of knowledge, very important for us to grow in future as well, for especially people who are young. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Thank you all.